on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Amy Jacobson here. John Anthony and for Dan Proft.
Hello there.
Hello.
Yeah.
Tally-ho. No, we need to
Good
speak
night, mate.
Swedish.
Oh, Sweden.
Yog, say yog.
Yeah.
Ja, ja. What is this, John Anthony? It's the Swedish national anthem. You don't know this?
I don't care. I'm American. America.
Okay.
It reminds me of, you and DJ, y'all, whenever we call you guys. Do you understand what he's saying when he's speaking in Swedish?
Who?
Do you understand the Swedish language?
No, I.
Well, he sits there and he's talking to you.
Oh,
My
I know
friend
your
DJ.
friend.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. You two call me once you've
Yeah.
had a few soda pops.
No, he
Yeah.
tells you when he's had a few
And
soda
starts
pops.
speaking Swedish to me. But anyway, why we are talking about Sweden, they didn't only lead the way in COVID, remember? They
Yeah.
didn't shut things down, no mask mandates, no vaccine mandates. They had school. The only thing they didn't have was large concerts, and that was it.
Yeah.
And they led the way. And guess what? Their death rate, a lot lower than ours. Well, they're making the way now when it comes to migrants, because there's certain sections in Stockholm
Uh-huh.
that you unrecognizable. They even remember we did this story. There was a reporter and a photographer who went in to one of these neighborhoods.
Oh, yeah.
And they got
yeah.
attacked.
Yeah, yeah. I remember.
Because they wanted them out.
Yes.
And it was a
Yes.
group from Africa, and
Yes.
they got them out.
Yes.
With more on this and the big announcement, let's welcome back to the program Dominic Green, columnist for the columnist for the Washington Examiner, contributor to the Wall Street Journal, and fellow of the Royal Historic Society. Good morning, Mr. Green. How are you? Oh, see, he's speaking Swedish.
See? I lived there for a couple of years.
So what did you just say to us in Swedish?
I said, hello, Amy. Hello, John. How's it today?
Oh, nice. All right, so Dominic Green, what is Sweden doing when it comes to the migrant crisis?
Well, sorry to pay people to leave. Having lived years, I can tell you that you had to pay to live there through all their winters. But the idea being there was $4,000 to illegal immigrants as the workers repatriate themselves. I think this has a very good chance of working because if you're working as a shadow economy.
You know what, Dominic? We have a bad connection. We're going to take a break real quick here and reconnect with you. Thanks.
hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidiscipline practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930, 630-830-4930, or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
The following is a paid political announcement.
I'm Jim Karras, and I approve this ad.
Brad Schneider has spent a decade in Congress and failed the families of the 10th District. He has not passed a single law and blindly rubber stamps the far left. Now he's avoiding debates with Jim Karras because he's afraid of being held accountable. Jim Karras will deliver where Brad Schneider has failed. Jim is a common-sense, independent business leader who will strengthen our economy and keep our streets safe. Vote for Jim Karras because the 10th District deserves better. Paid for by Karras for Congress.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Scott Bartmus, co-founder of ESCO, a security and fire alarm services business and a customer of Signature Bank. We work hard to give our customers peace of mind, so it's nice to know that while we have our customers' backs, partners like Signature Bank have ours. When COVID hit, there was a lot of uncertainty for many businesses, particularly surrounding the PPP loan program, with parameters and deadlines changing constantly. The executives from Signature Bank worked weekends alongside their staff, filling out and submitting applications to ensure they took care of us. That type of dedication is hard to find, but we found it with Signature Bank.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, let's try this again. Dominic Green, columnist for the Washington Examiner, contributor to the Wall Street Journal, and fellow of the Royal Historical Society. Mr. Green, we lost contact with you when you were talking about what Sweden is offering migrants.
Yes, and I'm sorry about that. It's because I'm in London when nothing works. They are offering $34,000 a head to illegal immigrants to return themselves to their nightmare places of origin. This is interesting for two reasons. One, it's hard to believe that it'll work because for $34,000, you can earn that illegally quite easily in Sweden. The other thing is that it shows how far the window has shifted, and that even a few years ago, this would have been a completely unacceptable idea in virtually any European state, let alone in the United States. While now it's Sweden, which really, the Swedes prided themselves on being the leading liberal society in Europe, if not the whole West. It's actually the Swedish government which has come up with this, and that shows how drastically the mood has shifted. And we see it, of course, in the US as well, where Donald Trump is campaigning partly on the issue of expelling illegal migrants. And the Democratic Party, of course, are very enthusiastic about not doing that.
Well, where are most of the migrants?
We're in a different age.
Yeah, where are most of the migrants coming from? What countries?
Well, in Sweden's case, they come from places like Afghanistan, Iraq, Somalia, places that are notorious for being peaceful, freedom-loving,
right,
and law-abiding, with no problems at all with guns, militias, and religious fanaticism. That actually is where they're coming from. And in a sense, I mean, let's face it, a lot of the immigration, illegal immigration, is the result of the war on terror. The wars in the Middle East led to large numbers of people leaving and going to Europe. So that was an unforeseen consequence of that in some ways. In other ways, however, the numbers of people coming just reflect the fact that it's never been easier to travel from one side of the world to the other, and that there are vast criminal organizations that are feeding that demand. This is not a case of innocent victims getting off a plane. This is a case of people buying a ticket from some of the worst criminals in the world. So governments are starting now to realize that the majority of their populations simply have had enough of this. Sweden does publish statistics on who commits which kinds of crime. So do the Dutch government, so do the French government. The British government refuses to do this. But basically, everybody knows that there is what seems to be quite a close link between high levels of illegal immigration and certain crimes. And again, this is becoming a political issue that people are actually beginning to discuss, when previously it was just unacceptable to even ask the question.
Yeah. But this is a big step. I mean, they were enticing migrants to leave and offering $976 an adult, and to jump that to $34,000. I mean, that's a big, big boost.
Let's go to Sweden, Amy.
I know.
It is. Yeah, but perhaps the migrants should unionize and then negotiate from a position of strength, because obviously, less than 1,000 is that's not even an opening gambit if the Swedes are going to give you 34,000. No, but seriously, it shows this is the beginnings, I think, of a serious attempt. And it's only the beginnings of it, and it begins out of desperation. Actually, it's people who want to stay elected or get elected who are realizing that something has to be done. And it'll take many years, I think, for a new understanding of immigration and how to police it to develop, because the laws we have governing asylum and immigration are from the middle of the 20th century. They have very little value in today's world. It's an entirely different thing. So this is going to develop piecemeal, I think, across different countries. But as I said, I think a new kind of norm will emerge by public demand across the Western democracies. And I think in American terms, clearly Donald Trump is much more in step with the public mood than Kamala Harris is.
Right. Let's talk about the pages heard around the world. As far as the exploding pagers and the exploding handheld radios. I don't know if Israel has taken ownership of it and said that it was them, but I saw the process of it. Taiwan shipped it to I forget which country.
Well, then Japan's may be involved, and they're all denying that they produce. I mean, it was something out of a movie.
Right, but what stops the enemies of America, the enemies of Great Britain, from finding a different avenue to do such? And I mean, are there safeguards in place? I don't know if there's safeguards in place in America or Great Britain to stop an attack, something like that, because China, our biggest enemy, could easily, because we get everything. I was looking at my cell phone like, wait a minute, you don't blow up in my hand.
Well, don't put it in your pocket if you want to keep your onions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there again, two things here. One is this, that from what we have discovered in the last few days, the Israelis set up a shell company, a fake company, several companies, for the day when something like this might be done. And then when Hezbollah made the purchase, it was routed through this company where they took the phones apart, put in some explosive, and then sent them on. The big issue, though, does affect all of us, which is basically to do with digital security. And here we see a similar pattern that we do in many other areas, which is if it's a private company doing it, they have an interest in maintaining security. For instance, Apple cares that your iPhone is secure because it's bad for business if anyone can hack it. The real weakness, therefore, is when the federal government has a hand in it. It's federal infrastructure which is weak. The Library of Congress, for instance, is running software from the 1990s, someone told me. The weakest point in the U.S.'s defenses is the energy grid. Yeah. Because again, these are not updated systems. They're installed and kind of left to run with the occasional patch. So there, you don't have to be highly sophisticated to get inside that, and it would seem that is the obvious kind of thing that somebody looking at a preemptive attack would do. And you're right that as we saw on 9/11, with the anniversary was recently, and something everybody I think was thinking about. It's very easy to be caught napping, and federal systems are very slow to react. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see some kind of malicious attack if it hasn't already occurred, because the war in Ukraine in particular seems to have been linked to a sharp rise in the number of systems outings and so on in sensitive digital infrastructure. So I think, in a sense, that's already going on.
Yeah. And when you look at, you brought up Ukraine. I mean, this last guy that tried to assassinate President Trump has been there. There are people saying, there's rumors out there that this second attempt, Ukraine might have had a hand in it. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm just seeing, you're just starting to see, you look at both of these guys being in BlackRock commercials, things of that nature. I just find it suspicious. And what was it, Blumenthal saying that American people are not going to be happy with the report, which they still have
from the first assassination
attempt.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about these? Wait, just real quick. Matt Gaetz just recently said that there are 5 teams out there that they know of that are trying to take out President Trump, and only President Trump, nobody else. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the first thing is that it's extremely dangerous for the health of American society if one former president isn't given the same security coverage as all the others. And it's even worse when the front-running candidate isn't being given that. That's foolish, and that's very, in the long term, very damaging. I wrote this week for my Washington Examiner column. It was actually about the odd parallels between the two men who tried to shoot Donald Trump. Yeah. They both donated to Act Blue, which is, a Democratic fundraising organization. They both appeared on the screen. One was in an advert for BlackRock, as you say. The other was a volunteer in this kind of pro-Ukrainian video. And then, they both turn out to be lone shooters. And I'm saying that there's obviously some similarity and a pattern here, but how does it work? And I think it works by what we call social contagion, which is everybody is online. We're being barraged with political propaganda, let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, not just because it's an election year. And, some people are crazy. Some people fall into their screen, and you get these kind of unpredictable outcomes. What you can predict, however, and it doesn't, these two guys are not part of some organized conspiracy. They're just the equivalent of a ricochet. You tell people democracy is at stake and we have to fight for it, and some people will take it literally. What you can predict, however, is that crazy people will try and shoot candidates. That happens. That's a solid bet. And you can predict that as several presidents' stories show, people will actually succeed sometimes in shooting the president of the United States. So not having a full security envelope around a candidate is recklessness. And I think actually in some sense far more dangerous than the incitement itself. The failure to secure Donald Trump twice over now, it's, the consequences if someone was actually to hit the target are you can imagine.
Well, you can only be lucky for so long. And I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Barack Obama has far more Secret Service agents than President Trump does. But you over there in London, are you guys laughing at us at this lack of security for President Trump? Does it almost seem as if they're trying to eliminate him?
Well, yes. I will say, we've only been back over in London for a few weeks, and most people here are so absorbed in the disintegration of Britain that they barely have time to watch the news about how bad it is elsewhere. Yes, I think, seriously though, there is a concern, and this, the United States is the leader of the free world. People see this stuff, and they think, what is this clown show? How is it possible that twice someone can shoot at the guy from relatively short range? This is amateurishness. It suggests that the systems which are meant to preserve the American public are running down and being corrupted by partisan ends. And we see this similarly when, say, Kamala Harris says that she's going to set the Justice Department on social media companies because she says they have to be made to pay for what she calls disinformation and misinformation. But, if you look at, and again, if you look at it from the outside, what you will see is that most American media produce a kind of political propaganda for one party, and that it's actually social media which has eventually allowed the truth to come out. And we see, therefore, the decline of American freedom and the assault on the First Amendment, which is going on all over the West. Governments are trying to reduce freedoms of speech, but nobody is freer when it comes to speaking than Americans, and it performs a vital function for everyone else. Because, speech in England, for instance, is not as open. It's very, you're very hard to criticize people openly.
Well, couldn't you get arrested if you put something online that somebody deems as hateful?
That's correct. There are people who've been imprisoned in recent weeks for saying rude things on Twitter. Last week, on the other hand, a BBC presenter was convicted of soliciting and buying images of child abuse, and he was only let off with a fine. So it really depends. It really depends which team you're perceived as playing on. Two-tier justice is something which is a serious problem in Britain, as people call it. In fact, they call Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, two-tier Keir. When you look at the manner in which the Justice Department in the US has been politicized, you see similar patterns emerging there, where some people get to say whatever they like, even if it's true or not, and other people are treated as though they are sort of fascist dictators simply for describing what's going on. For instance, the reporting of the state of the southern border and discussions about what to do about it. That's a very clear example where most of the media was completely neglectful of its responsibilities and even helped the government deny that there was a problem. And again, it was social media that actually exposed it.
All right. We're going to have to leave it there. Dominic Green, columnist for the Washington Examiner, thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful weekend.
Take care.
Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer, What type of gun was used in that possible assassination of President Trump? We'll start there with Dan Eldridge. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
This morning we have 70 degrees and cloudy skies at 7:31 on AM 560, The Answer. And good morning. Road work on DuSable Lakeshore Drive left vehicles damaged, causing a major headache for drivers. Last night, problems began in the south.